I arrived at Blackwood Manor in the Hudson Valley a week before my wedding to finalize the last details. At the entrance, Harper, the family's executive assistant, intercepted me with an urgency I will never forget. "Hide behind the bookshelf in the library. There's no time to explain, just trust me." I obeyed. 5 minutes later, I understood everything. But before getting into the story, support us by hitting like and subscribing right now. I also want to say hello to everyone. Leave your name, your city, and your thoughts in the comments. Thank you. My name is Victoria Sterling, and I'm 29 years old. I'm a trader on Wall Street. During the day, I move millions of dollars, analyze charts, and make decisions others wouldn't dare to make. I live in a penthouse in Tribeca with a view of the Freedom Tower. I have worked every single day for the last 7 years to build my wealth. I didn't inherit a cent. Everything I have, I earned myself. I met Julian Van Der Bilt 10 months ago at a charity gala at the Metropolitan Club. Tall, handsome, with that quiet confidence that comes with old money surnames in New York City. He courted me for 6 months. Dinners at Fiancé, walks through the West Village, weekends in the Hamptons. He spoke to me about his family, the prestigious PR firm they managed, and his connections in the city's high society. 6 months in, he proposed on the terrace of my penthouse with the Empire State Building shining in the distance. I said yes. I thought I had found someone who loved me for who I was, not for what I had. His mother, Julian Van Der Bilt, received me with coldness at first. A 5-9-year-old woman, elegant, controlling, used to everyone obeying her orders, but little by little, she seemed to accept me. She even suggested that the wedding be held at Blackwood Manor in upstate New York, a property that had been in the family for generations. The week before the wedding, Eleanor insisted I go alone to the estate. "There are certain family protocols we must review before the ceremony," she told me. "Confidential matters that only concern the women of the Van Der Bilt family." Julian was busy with some important clients. He told me to trust his mother, that she knew how to do things properly. I arrived at the manor that Thursday afternoon. The drive from New York City had been long, 2.5 hours on the highway, watching the concrete skyscrapers turn into dense forests and rolling hills. The manor was impressive walls of gray stone, patios with colonial fountains, immense gardens, but there was something about the place that made me feel uncomfortable, a chill that had nothing to do with the temperature. Harper, the family's personal assistant, received me at the entrance. A woman of about 30, thin, with a discreet elegance, always efficient, always in the background. I had been in several family meetings where she organized agendas, took notes, and ensured everything ran perfectly. We had never spoken much, just polite greetings, professional smiles. But that day, as soon as I walked in, something in her gaze changed. She was watching me with a strange intensity, nervous, almost frightened. "Mrs. Van Der Bilt is waiting for you in the main drawing room," she said with a tense voice. "But first, could you accompany me for a moment to the library? There are some documents you need to review." I followed her through the corridors of the manor. Hardwood floors, high ceilings with dark wooden beams, portraits of Van Der Bilt ancestors watching me from the walls. We entered the library, an enormous room filled with antique books, mahogany furniture, and that massive bookshelf covering an entire wall. That was when Harper closed the door and turned toward me. Her face was pale, her hands trembling. "Victoria, listen to me very carefully," she whispered with urgency. "In a few minutes, Eleanor and Julian are going to arrive. They cannot see you here. You need to hide behind this bookshelf. There is a hidden space. Get in there and do not come out until I tell you." "What? What are you talking about?" I tried to back away, but she grabbed my arm. Her fingers were ice. "There is no time for explanations. Please, trust me. When you hear what they are going to say, you will understand everything. I'm begging you. Just 5 minutes. The whole situation was absurd. An assistant I barely knew was asking me to hide at my own wedding venue. A rational person would have said no, would have asked to speak with Eleanor immediately. But something in Harper's eyes, that genuine panic, that sincere desperation, made me nod. She led me behind the bookshelf. There was a concealed door that opened into a small room, probably an old servant's hideout or a Prohibition-era stash. A narrow space with a chair and a ventilation grate in the wall that looked directly into the main drawing room. I sat down, my heart beating so hard I could hear it in my ears. What was I doing? Hiding in a colonial estate, waiting. For what? A minute passed. 2. I heard footsteps, voices. The door to the main drawing room burst open. "Mother, are you sure we should meet here?" It was Julian's voice. He sounded nervous. "Shut up and sit down." Eleanor's voice was cold and authoritative. "No one comes to the manor during the week. We are completely alone. It is the perfect moment to review the plan." I moved closer to the grate. I could see them clearly. Eleanor was sitting in a red velvet armchair with a leather portfolio on her lap. Julian was pacing from one side to the other, nervous, rubbing his hands together. "On Friday, 2 days before the wedding, you will take her to the attorney," Eleanor said, pulling out some documents. "You will tell her that you need to formalize the joint ownership of assets before getting married, that it is a legal requirement to protect both of you." "And if she suspects something?" Julian asked. "She won't suspect a thing. She's a shark on Wall Street, but a goldfish when it comes to love." Eleanor laughed. That laugh froze my blood. "She is so in love she will sign whatever you put in front of her." I felt the ground open up beneath my feet. I continued listening from my hiding place, unable to move a muscle. Every word that came out of Eleanor's mouth was like a direct punch to the stomach. "These are 3 different liens," she continued, spreading the documents on the coffee table. "One on the Tribeca penthouse, another on her investment account at the brokerage, and the third is a guarantor agreement for our company's debts. How much is it in total?" Julian's voice sounded weak. $5 million. The silence that followed was heavy, dense. I was still there, paralyzed, watching through that grate as the man who was going to be my husband discussed with his mother the best way to rob me of everything I had built. "Mother, that's a lot of money," Julian finally said. "And what if she wants to review the papers afterward? She works in finance every day. That is why you will take her directly from the attorney's office to JFK. 5 days in Bora Bora, all inclusive, champagne, beaches, romance. By the time she gets back and has time to review anything, the money will already be out of the country, transferred to the accounts in the Cayman Islands that your brother opened." "My brother?" He mentioned a brother. Julian had never spoken to me about any brother. "Is Preston still in the Caymans?" Julian asked. "Yes, he will handle the wire transfers from there. He already did it once 3 years ago. Everything went perfectly." "You're referring to his ex-wife?" "Exactly, that engineer." Eleanor spoke with icy contempt. "We got $400,000 out of her, enough to plug the most urgent holes at that moment. Although it didn't last long. Obviously, I felt nauseous. So, this wasn't the first time. They had already done this to someone else. An entire family dedicated to hunting women with assets, marrying them, robbing them blind, and vanishing. Friends, every story I tell you happens every day, but YouTube will only show them to you if you hit the red subscribe button. Hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and you'll never miss a story." "Thanks, Mom." "I feel sick about this," Julian confessed, dropping into an armchair. "Victoria is a good person. She treats me well. I love her." "You love her?" Eleanor let out a dry cackle. "Son, wake up. We Vanderbilts are broke. Completely broke. The PR agency you brag about hasn't existed for 2 years. The properties are mortgaged to the hilt. This manor, the apartment on Park Avenue, everything. The banks are pressuring us. We have illegal loan sharks threatening us." She stood up and walked toward the window overlooking the gardens. From my angle, I could see her profile. An elegant woman, from a good family, with pearls around her neck and destruction in her eyes. 2 months ago, they left a dead rat and a bullet in a box at my doorstep, she said with a flat voice, with a note that said, "Next time it will be real." These aren't bankers in ties, Julian. These are dangerous people. If we don't pay them, they are going to kill us. Literally. We could declare bankruptcy, start over, and live like the middle class. Eleanor turned toward him with fury. "Do you know what that is? Taking the subway, shopping at Target, having your friends at the club see you fallen? I prefer to die. And if to maintain our standard of living I have to sacrifice a wealthy trader who fell in love with my son, I will do it without thinking twice." Julian remained silent. He didn't protest. He didn't get indignant. He simply accepted it. And in that moment, I knew everything had been a lie. The flowers, the romantic dinners, the promises of a future all calculated, planned, executed with the precision of a professional con. And after taking the money, Julian asked, "What do we do with Victoria?" "Immediate divorce. 3 months after the wedding. Maximum. You'll say you discovered she's a workaholic, that she's never home, that you want a traditional family and she only thinks about the stock market. Judges always favor the man when the woman is the breadwinner in these circles. The debts will remain in her name." Exactly. Everything legal, everything signed by her voluntarily in front of a notary. She'll try to fight, but she won't have proof of anything. And by that moment, the money will be out of the U.S. Untraceable. I heard Eleanor putting the documents back into the portfolio, heard Julian sigh deeply, surrendering to his mother's plans, heard both of them standing up, ready to leave. "Victoria should be arriving soon," Eleanor said. "Go receive her. Be charming. Make her feel special. After the attorney, it doesn't matter what she thinks." "Yes, Mother." I heard them leave the room. Their footsteps faded down the hallway. Silence returned to the library, but I still couldn't move. I was frozen in that hiding place with Eleanor's words resonating in my head like a death sentence. "She's a shark on Wall Street, but a goldfish in love." She was right. I had been an idiot, a complete idiot. I had let Julian's superficial charm, the appearance of a good family, the dinners at expensive restaurants blind me completely. Me, who analyzed balance sheets every day, who detected corporate fraud just by reviewing 3 account statements, had failed to see the most obvious scam of all. A man with no money courting a woman with assets. The door to the secret room opened. Harper entered and knelt in front of me. She had tears in her eyes. "You heard everything," she whispered. I nodded slowly. I felt a knot in my throat that wouldn't let me speak. "I was Preston's wife," Harper said with a broken voice. 3 years ago, they did exactly the same thing to me. Harper helped me out of the hiding place. My legs barely held me up. We walked in silence to an interior courtyard of the manor, far from the main areas. We sat on a stone bench under a purple wisteria. I met Preston at a civil engineering conference in Chicago. She began to tell me, her hands trembling as she spoke. It was 2021. I was 27. I had just gotten a position as lead engineer on a construction project. I was earning well. I had a condo in the Loop that I had bought with my first bonus. I was proud of what I had achieved. She paused, looking at the purple flowers falling from the vine. Preston was charming, exactly like Julian. Same old money last name, same prestigious family, same fake security. He courted me for 4 months. Trips to Cabo, dinners in Aspen, expensive gifts. He introduced me to his mother. Eleanor was so sweet to me at first. And then I married him in October of that year, an intimate wedding at this very manor. 2 weeks later, Eleanor brought me some documents. She said they were papers to include me in the family business, that since I was now a Van Der Bilt, I should participate in the family investments. I signed everything without reading. Preston was there smiling, telling me everything was fine. Her voice cracked. They were credit contracts, second mortgages on my condo, guarantor agreements in total, $400,000. By the time we got back from the honeymoon in the Dominican Republic, my bank account was empty, and my condo was collateral for debts I didn't even know existed. "Did you go to the police?" I tried. I hired lawyers with the little I had left, but all the documents were perfect. My signature notarized. The notary declared I had signed voluntarily, without coercion, in full possession of my faculties. I tried to prove fraud, but how? I had no proof. Just my word against that of a family with connections all over New York. And Preston asked for a divorce 3 months later. He said I was obsessed with work, that we weren't compatible. The judge divided the assets equitably. 0 divided by 2 is 0, but the debts remained in my name. Everything legal, everything certified. Harper wiped her tears with the back of her hand. I lost my condo. I lost my savings. I had to leave my job as an engineer because I couldn't concentrate. I fell into a depression. For a year, I could barely function. When I finally recovered, the only thing I could get was a job as an administrative assistant. "And why did you come back to work for them?" I couldn't understand it. "Why return to the family that destroyed you?" Her eyes hardened. "Because I didn't give up. 8 months ago, I found out Eleanor was looking for a personal assistant. I introduced myself with a fake name, with fake references, with a completely different appearance. I had cut my hair, lost weight, used contact lenses instead of my glasses. They didn't recognize me. The Vanderbilts never really look at the people they consider inferior. And what did you plan to do? Gather evidence, document everything, find other victims. I found out there were at least 2 others before me, successful professional women who married men from the Vanderbilt family and ended up in ruin. I've been recording conversations, copying documents, tracking bank transfers for months. She took out her phone and showed me a folder full of files, audio recordings, photos of documents, bank statements, emails. When I saw your name in the wedding planner, I investigated who you were. Victoria Sterling, successful trader, net worth of at least $8 million between your penthouse and your investments, the perfect profile for their next scam. And I knew I had to warn you. I stared at those files. Months of meticulous work. Harper had been planning this carefully, waiting for the right moment to destroy the family that had destroyed her. "What do we do now?" I asked. My voice sounded strange, as if it were coming from far away. "Now, we fight back," Harper said with cold determination, "but I need you to be strong. I need you to pretend you know nothing, to keep acting like the love-struck bride, to go to the attorney on Friday just as they plan." "Are you crazy? You want me to sign those documents?" "You aren't going to sign them, but they can't know that you know. If they suspect anything, they will disappear. They'll look for another victim, and all of this will have been in vain." She leaned closer to me, lowering her voice even though we were completely alone. "I have a contact with an investigator from the FBI's White-Collar Crimes Division. I've been passing him information for months. He is building a case against the Vanderbilts for organized fraud and racketeering, but he needs them to attempt the fraud one more time, with witnesses, with irrefutable proof, to be able to arrest them in the act. You're asking me to be the bait. I'm asking you to be justice." We sat in silence. The sun was starting to set over the fields of the Hudson Valley. I could hear the crickets chirping, the murmur of a nearby fountain, everything so calm, so beautiful, and inside, my world had completely collapsed. I thought about Julian, about his kisses, his promises, how he held me at night and told me I was the love of his life. All lies. Every word, every gesture, every moment I believed was real, just a carefully rehearsed performance to steal everything from me. I thought about Eleanor with her pearls and her cold elegance, planning my destruction as if it were a simple business transaction. And I thought about Harper, about how she had survived, had planned, had waited patiently for months to have this opportunity for revenge. "Okay," I said finally, "I'll do it. But I need you to explain to me exactly what I have to do." That night I returned to my penthouse in Tribeca. The 2.5-hour drive from upstate served to organize my thoughts. Harper had given me precise instructions. Act normal. Don't raise suspicions. Go to the attorney on Friday as planned, but with a difference. The FBI investigator would be there, with hidden cameras, with microphones, documenting every word, every lie. When I entered the apartment, Julian was sitting in the living room with a glass of red wine, watching the city lights. He stood up when he saw me, smiling with that smile that until a few hours ago melted my heart. "How was the manor, my love?" He hugged me, kissing my hair. "Everything ready for the wedding?" I had to make a superhuman effort not to push him away, not to scream everything I knew at him. But I forced myself to smile, to hug him back, to act like the naive Victoria he believed I was. "Everything is perfect. Your mom is incredible at organizing. The gardens are going to look spectacular. I knew it." He pulled back to look me in the eyes. "Hey, there's something I wanted to mention to you. Mom suggested that before the wedding we formalize some legal papers, boring asset, co-ownership stuff to protect us mutually." There it was, starting exactly as Harper had warned me. "What kind of papers?" I asked, feigning innocent curiosity. "Nothing complicated, just formalities that attorneys ask for. We can go Friday morning, sign them, and we're ready for Saturday." "Of course, love. Whatever you say." I saw him relax. He had passed the first test. I poured myself a glass of wine, although I had no intention of drinking it. I needed to keep my mind completely clear. The next 2 days were torture. I had to continue with my normal routine, go to the office in the financial district, trade on the market, take calls, But every time I saw the numbers on the screens, I thought about the $5 million they wanted to steal from me. Every transaction I executed reminded me that I, who moved millions every day for others, had been on the verge of losing everything of my own for trusting a handsome man with a prestigious last name. Thursday night, Eleanor came to dinner at the penthouse. She brought a bottle of incredibly expensive French wine and a smile that I could now see for exactly what it was: calculating, cold, predatory. "Victoria, dear," she told me while we dined on the terrace, "tomorrow when you go to the attorney, I need you to bring the deed to your apartment and also the statements for your investment accounts." "What for?" I feigned confusion. "It's part of the formalization process. The attorney needs to verify the assets that are going to enter into co-ownership. Simple American bureaucracy. Simple bureaucracy." What an elegant way to describe a robbery. Of course, I'll have them ready. If you want to know how this story ends and hear many more, hit the red subscribe button. It's free and helps me a lot. That night, after Eleanor left and Julian fell asleep, I stayed awake on the terrace. The lights of New York City shone like a sea of artificial stars. From up there, everything looked beautiful, ordered, perfect. No one could imagine the amount of betrayals, lies, dark plans cooking behind those illuminated windows. I took out my phone and checked Harper's messages. She had sent me the exact address of the law firm on Park Avenue, just 10 minutes from my apartment. The FBI investigator, a man named Robert Garza, would be posing as a paralegal. There would be hidden cameras in the pens, microphones in the lamps. Everything Eleanor and Julian said would be recorded. "We just need them to try to explain the documents to you with lies," Harper had told me. "For them to say they are co-ownership papers when in reality they are liens. For them to claim it is to protect you when in reality it is to rob you. As soon as we have that confession recorded, the investigator will identify himself and arrest them for attempted fraud." It sounded simple in theory. In practice, it meant I was going to have to sit in front of Julian, look him in the eye, and listen to him lie to me deliberately. I was going to have to watch Eleanor smile while she passed me documents designed to destroy me financially, and I couldn't react. I couldn't scream at them. I couldn't cry. I had to keep up the act until the very last second. Friday dawned cold and gray. An unusual fog covered the city. I dressed in a navy blue pantsuit, the one I used for important meetings at the stock exchange. I wanted to look professional, secure, in control, even though inside I was shattered. Julian was waiting for me in the living room, also dressed formally: white shirt, dress pants, gray blazer. He looked nervous. Well, he should be. "Ready?" he asked me, offering his arm like the gentleman he never was. "Ready," I replied, taking his arm and sealing my own trap. The ride to the law firm was silent. I looked out the window, watching Park Avenue pass by the luxury boutiques, the expensive restaurants, the elegant buildings where people lived who, like the Van Der Bilts, preferred to keep up appearances rather than admit their ruin. We arrived at 10 a.m. sharp. The law firm was discreet, on the second floor of an Art Deco building. Eleanor was already there waiting for us in the reception area with her leather portfolio. Punctual. Excellent. She greeted us with kisses on the cheek. I could smell her expensive perfume, Chanel No. 5, the scent of high society betrayal. We entered the lawyer's office, and there, behind the desk, was the man who would change everything. The attorney was a man of about 60, with small glasses and a serious expression. He offered me a seat in front of his desk. Eleanor sat to my right, Julian to my left, like predators circling their prey. "Good," the attorney said with a professional voice. "I understand you are here to formalize matrimonial co-ownership documents before the ceremony." "That is correct," Eleanor responded with a charming smile. "We want our Victoria to be legally protected." The attorney opened a folder and spread several documents on the desk. I immediately recognized some of the format's credit contracts, mortgage liens, exactly what I had seen in the photos Harper had shown me. "These are the documents we need to notarize," Eleanor said, pushing them toward me. "They are standard co-ownership papers. Basically, they formalize that both of your assets remain protected within the marriage." I took the documents and began to flip through them, pretending to read with attention. In reality, I was looking for the specific clauses Harper had pointed out to me. There they were, A line of credit for $2 million secured by the property located at my penthouse address. A guarantor agreement for obligations of Vanderbilt Associates LLC for an amount of $3 million more. Here it says line of credit, I pointed out, keeping my voice calm. I thought this was co-ownership. Eleanor leaned toward me, putting her hand on mine in a completely fake maternal gesture. Oh dear. That's the legal terminology attorneys use. In reality, it is a way to guarantee that both of you have equitable access to matrimonial resources. Right, counselor? The attorney looked me directly in the eyes. There was something in his expression, a silent warning. Actually, he said with a deliberate and clear voice, these documents are not simple co-ownership. They are mortgage credit contracts. Miss Sterling would be guaranteeing loans for a total amount of $5 million using her property in Tribeca as collateral. The silence that followed was absolute. I saw Eleanor tense up. Julian stopped breathing. What? I feigned confusion, although every word from the attorney was planned. I don't understand. Julian told me they were matrimonial protection papers. They are exactly that, Eleanor intervened quickly, shooting a furious look at the attorney. The counselor is using technical terms that can be confusing. What matters is that you sign here and here. She pointed to the signature lines. The attorney took off his glasses. Mrs. Vanderbilt, as a legal representative and notary public, I am obligated to explain clearly to all signatories what they are authorizing. Miss Sterling has the right to know that these documents. I will explain to my daughter-in-law what she needs to know. Eleanor cut in with a voice of steel. Unfortunately, that is not a legally valid explanation. The attorney stood up, and then he said the words I was waiting for. I must inform you that this meeting is being documented by the FBI White-Collar Crimes Division. The side door of the office opened. 3 people entered, 2 uniformed agents and a man in a suit whom I recognized from the photos Harper had sent me, Robert Garza, the investigator. Eleanor Vanderbilt, Julian Van Der Bilt, you are under arrest for attempted aggravated fraud. Eleanor's face completely decomposed. All her elegance, all her high society composure evaporated in a second. What is this? This is a trap. It isn't a trap, Investigator Garza said calmly, showing his badge. It is an intelligence operation that has been in process for months. We have your conversations at Blackwood Manor recorded. We have documented at least 4 previous scams with the same modus operandi. And now we have your attempt recorded on video to obtain Miss Sterling's signature through false declarations. One of the agents began to read them their rights. Eleanor was screaming, threatening with lawyers, with contacts, with influence. Julian was paralyzed, white as a sheet. He turned to look at me. Victoria, you knew? I looked him directly in the eyes. I knew everything since Thursday at the manor. When you and your mother were discussing how to rob me, I was listening behind the bookshelf in the library. I saw how the realization hit him, how he realized that everything, every moment since then, had been me acting, returning the deception. All this time, he whispered, all this time I was planning this with the help of Harper, your ex-sister-in-law, the woman your brother and mother destroyed 3 years ago. Victoria, please. I love you. All this was my mom's idea. I didn't want to lie. My voice came out colder than I expected. I heard you laugh. I heard you say I was a shark on Wall Street but a goldfish in love. I heard you plan exactly when you would ask for the divorce. You don't love me, Julian. You don't even know me. You only loved my money. The agents began to handcuff him. He kept looking at me, looking for something in my eyes. Compassion, perhaps, forgiveness. He wasn't going to find anything. Eleanor, even handcuffed, tried to maintain her dignity. You have powerful contacts, girl. We are going to destroy you in court. Investigator Garza smiled. Mrs. Vanderbilt, we have enough evidence to process you for organized fraud, money laundering, and racketeering, RICO. Your powerful contacts are going to be very busy trying to distance themselves from you. They took them away. I watched as Julian turned back one last time before leaving through the door. I tried to feel something sadness, perhaps, or satisfaction, but I only felt empty. When the office fell silent, I let myself fall into the chair. The real attorney, who had been hiding in the adjoining room, entered and offered me a glass of water. You are very brave, Miss Sterling. I don't feel brave, I admitted. I feel shattered. The door opened one more time. Harper entered with tears running down her face. We hugged in the middle of that law office, two women who had survived the same predator. "We did it," she whispered. "We did it." 6 months later, I was standing in front of the windows of my penthouse, exactly where everything had begun, where Julian had proposed to me with the Empire State Building shining behind him. But now I saw that view with completely different eyes. The trial had ended the week before. Eleanor was sentenced to 8 years in federal prison. Julian and Preston received 5 years each. The 4 previous victims Harper had located testified. Their stories were practically identical to mine. Successful professional women seduced by men of the Van Der Bilt family, robbed systematically. The judge ruled that the family had to return everything stolen, although most of the money had disappeared into offshore accounts. But Blackwood Manor was seized and sold. The proceeds of the sale were distributed among the victims. We didn't recover everything, but it was a start. Harper and I founded a non-profit organization, Women on Guard. We help victims of marital fraud. We offer free legal advice, support groups. The demand is terrifying. Every week we receive at least 3 new cases of women who discover that the man courting them only wanted their money. I learned something important in all this. Marital fraud is more common than we imagine, and it almost always follows the same pattern. A man or woman with the appearance of success, but in reality broke. A victim with real assets. An accelerated courtship, a quick wedding, legal documents that the victim signs trustingly, and then destruction. There are signs I recognize now, but that I ignored before. Julian never invited me to his apartment on Park Avenue. He always came to mine. I never met his real friends, only business contacts. His expensive gifts were always courtesies or samples from suppliers. His mother handled all his finances, little red flags that my traitor brain should have detected, but that my enamored heart ignored completely. 2 months ago, I met someone. His name is Richard. He is an economics professor at Columbia University. He earns less in a month than I do in a successful day of trading. He lives in a modest apartment in the West Village, drives a 2012 Honda Civic, and is the most honest man I have ever known. Our first date was at a diner for burgers. He treated me like an equal, not like a trophy or a bank account. When I told him my story, he didn't try to fix it or minimize it. He just listened. And when I finished, he said something I will never forget. Real love doesn't need scams, just time, honesty, and respect. We are going slowly, very slowly. I have learned that true love is in no hurry, doesn't need rushed weddings or urgent documents. It grows naturally, like the wisteria in the courtyard of that manor. Sometimes I still think about Julian not with love, but with something akin to pity. I imagine how he feels in prison knowing he exchanged years of his life for $5 million he never got to have, that he chose his mother and his lying surname over the possibility of real love. Harper says the true punishment for the Van Der Bilts isn't jail. It's knowing that all the women they tried to turn into victims are now allies, that instead of destroying us, they united us, that from their greed, our strength was born. I look at the lights of New York City and think about all the women out there who in this moment are being courted by someone with hidden intentions. I hope they listen to their intuition, that they see the signs, that they have their own Harper who warns them before it is too late. Because the most important lesson I learned is this. In love, just like on Wall Street, if something seems too good to be true, it is probably a scam. And now I know how to recognize the difference. If you like this story, click subscribe and tell me in the comments which part impressed you. Tomorrow there is more. See you there. This narrative has the sole purpose of inspiring reflection on relationships, the importance of emotional honesty, forgiveness, and the value of time. It should not be interpreted as medical, psychological, or any other type of professional advice. If you are facing family conflicts or difficult emotional situations, seek the support of qualified professionals such as therapists or counselors. This content is suitable for all audiences and complies with YouTube's family content guidelines.